Well, good evening. What was that?
I was dancing to our really catchy theme
I always
song.
do this.
This is my dance to it, just a one-armed.
The one is like the sprinkler. What was that back in the day, or something like that? I don't remember.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, welcome, DCL podcast fans. We've got the whole news crew here tonight. Welcome to the show, Christy. How are you tonight?
I'm tired, so all my words will be wrong. Let's just put that out there in advance.
But you are very chipper, seeing as how tired you are.
Snarky.
Snarky.
I feel like snarky is the word you just confused with chipper.
Okay. Well, let's head out to LA. What's going on the West Coast, Sir Chris?
I can't complain. I am a Magic Key holder, which means I have an annual pass again at Disneyland. So that's really exciting. I went to Disneyland this weekend.
With your Magic Key?
With my Magic Key. I made a reservation. I didn't even have to do it that far in advance. Everything was perfect. Nobody was in the park. We rode everything we wanted to with less than 20-minute wait.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And
so it was amazing. It was the best trip ever.
I love that. Did you and Seth get the different cards? Like one that was going to get parking and discounts and the one that was cheaper?
Yeah. The highest tier is just not worth it unless you're going to Disneyland twice a month. So that's not me. I don't go to Disneyland twice a month. However, it gives you a 20% discount on merchandise, 15% discount on food, and free included parking, which is $25 every time you go. So when you add up all those benefits, it made sense for me to get the high level and then Seth to get the one we actually would use, so that we at least are saving a little bit of money because I can just buy everything under my pass and we still get the discount. So that's the high level on that. All I can say is I'm really excited to have a pass again, and it feels like some semblance of normalcy. Also, we're charter members in this new program, which means that they mail us a little Magic Key pin thing, a magnet, a lanyard, a special map. I don't know what that is. And then our passes will be like charter passes for as long as we renew. So that's cool.
Until they come up with the next program.
Until they cancel that and then say Quantum Pass.
Pay 3 times the price.
And, before we go on, we got to bring in our favorite Buccaneer from Tampa. How you doing tonight, Steve? We kind of just jumped right into a topic without introducing you.
I am good. I'm hanging on my Walt Disney World gold annual passes with my dead lifeless grip until they rip Photo Pass away from me.
Did you renew it before the price went up?
Yes.
So does that mean you get to keep it for like another year before you have to upgrade to their new, whatever they're calling? Are they calling them annual passes?
No.
The names are all ridiculous. Who knows?
I don't even know. This is why we can't talk about it, because I don't know the real names.
Yeah. The Disney take a lot of your money program. I have no idea.
But so the one thing is there was this hack for a short period of time where, because they were making reservations for 2022 and because DVC could book and you had to make park reservations and there was capacity controls at one point, you could renew your pass for next year, this year. So like my pass expired in January, and a month or two ago, I renewed it for 2022 because I knew those prices were going up. Mm-hmm. And you just had to make a hotel reservation for when your pass didn't exist and need to make a resort reservation. And not a resort, a park pass. Now I hear myself, Steve. And so I have it. So I don't expire now until January of 2023.
That's awesome.
That's a pretty cool hack. And meanwhile, Steve up in Oregon is just really upset that they're not going back to, what was the Estonia? They did some sort of port stop for the Goonies. Do you remember that? They did it one time.
The cruise.
Astoria. Yeah. So that's the closest Disney has come to your home state.
Yeah, someday they will port a ship out of Astoria, and everybody will come to see the Goonies and drink our beer and see all the beauty that is the Pacific Northwest. There's
news time.
Okay, one question quick. Scott asked, how was the crowd in Disneyland?
I assume he already said it was great, and there was no lines, and he did everything quickly.
Yeah, all I can say is, to expound upon that, I will say, I think the reason why is the passes have only been on sale since August 25th, and most people were not just like, suddenly I'm free this weekend and can go. But we didn't have anything planned on Sunday. So we were like, let's just go. I think soon and very soon, that's not how it's going to work. So for now, soak it up because these passes are on sale and people are going to start making reservations, and Halloween is right here, and then Christmas, some of the busiest times of the year. So wasn't bad for me, but I can't guarantee next week.
Okay, so let's jump into our DCL August news recap, and I've got a pre-show or pre-news news, which I forgot to add on. But the Disney Wonder actually made it through the Panama Canal. I'm looking her up right now to see where she's at. She is currently on her way to San Diego, and if anybody happens to be, she's coming up to Baja right now. So she's already passed Cabo, and will be in San Diego supposedly September 2nd, and supposedly she will be doing a test cruise off the West Coast. And right now, as it looks, the first sailing that you can book is September 24th. So there was originally some sailings between now and September 24th. I'm not sure if they are going to go or not, but as far as if you just go on their website to see what's booked, it's a 2-day, September 24th on the Disney Wonder out of San Diego. So that's good news for her. And for those of you on the West Coast that have Wonder sailings booked this fall. So let's jump into the news. Disney Cruise Line shared 2 major updates this month on the construction of the Disney Wish via the Wish section of the Disney Parks blog. And I think it was just pictures. There was no videos on this, although if you're following Scott Sanders over the Disney Cruise Line blog, he's been posting up videos through some different people on YouTube that are over in Germany. But the team completed the installation of the wheelhouse or the bridge of the ship where the captain and crew will command the ship. And then the bow was also completed, which Chris, Captain Minnie, will grace the bow of the Disney Wish. I know you and Christy are pretty excited about that, as are the rest of us. The bow is one of 100 total blocks that need to be installed before the ship sets sail. And currently, and this is a couple weeks old, but currently about 30 blocks remain to be installed before the Disney Wish will be able to be floated out at Meyer Werft to begin her sailings in 2022. So neat to see that she is continuing to, they're continuing to build her over there. Not that they weren't going to, but it's neat to see that continue. And we've got some further stories that came out from the Wish this month as well. Christy, you want to jump into the news story number 2?
You're muted, Christy.
So sorry. Steve, you can't make faces, like you can't wave your arms. I go to the news. I don't look at my screen anymore, much like yourself, which is why Chris and I made faces at you when you talked about Captain Minnie. All right, down to news story number 2. He's muted now. He can't make fun of me. Disney Cruise Line updated their vaccination requirement for upcoming sailings due to new restrictions in the Bahamas, which does not allow any cruise ship to enter or dock at a Bahamian port. Okay, this was not written in complete sentences. Disney Cruise Line has mandated that all guests ages 12 and older be fully vaccinated in order to board a cruise to the Bahamas. And this is because of the new restriction by the Bahamian government. Basically, it says that beginning September 3rd, which for Disney is this Friday's sailing, I believe, through November 1st, the Bahamas will require all passengers to be fully vaccinated. To be fully vaccinated, you have to have been 14 days past either 1 dose of Johnson & Johnson or the 2nd dose of the Pfizer, Moderna, or AstraZeneca vaccinations. Children are exempt that are under 12 because they cannot be vaccinated yet. And guests who do not provide a proof of vaccination will not be allowed to board the ship. So the Bahamas basically said that in order to come into their country, the guests must be fully vaccinated. And this includes private islands. And remember that the private islands that all of these ships go to are still under the authority of the Bahamas. So everybody, Coco Cay, and Castaway Cay, these are Bahamian islands, and we have to follow their rules. So as a result, this did not make a news story, but there's actually a whole bunch of 25% off and 30% off cruises leaving from Florida to the Bahamas in September and October. So it's 25% off if you are just anybody and 30% off for Florida residents. So it would be worth looking into if you were thinking of getting on one of these ships. It's a little bit nice to have the decreased crowds on the ships. if that's something you're interested in.
So,
And you're vaccinated.
Yes.
and I guess, Christy, could you touch on for guests who decide they want to change their sailings based on these rules or for whatever other reason? Disney kind of clarified that as well for now. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so Disney is giving a full refund or a future cruise credit to apply to a future sailing. If you are already in paid in full status, we don't have the date in our notes, but you were emailed it. You have to make that decision by a certain date, and it's possible that that date was tomorrow. So make sure that you look if you wanted to cancel your sailing because you cannot or would not be vaccinated by the time you are supposed to sail. You definitely need to make sure you contact DCL.
And Steve is our favorite Buccaneer down in Florida. Have you looked at any of the rates on some of the ships to see kind of how they price out?
Yeah, I mean, this time of year, generally, I think, right, Christy, you see pretty good rates. September, October.
But I think they're even better. I don't know, Steve, you'll have to tell me because I would typically not look for a rate this time of year, but they're pretty good. And
trying to think,
there was a lot of them.
I did take a 7-night fantasy cruise in September, like the first or second week in September, a couple years ago in 2018. I think we paid $4,200 or $4,300 for 4 people for 7 nights. So I don't know. Yeah, and the other best rate I ever got was about $2,400.
Wait, when was that?
September 2018, first or second week in September. And another really good rate. When you start seeing under $200 per person, I would say, you're doing pretty good. When you start seeing like average like 185, 190, 195, that's pretty good.
Per person per night?
Per person per night, yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah, so I just booked today for October for some random day that my son has off school. And I was able, so a 3-night, I was able to get first seating already for a cruise that's in like 6 months, which says a lot to me, either about the passengers that are on board. So they're either going to be a late night crowd, although they put me in second seating automatically, or there's just not that many people booked that 5 weeks in, without even waitlisting me, I got into first seating.
It's reminiscent of like when the parks first opened, I think. It's what the restrictions are pretty good right now. The protocols are good. The crowds are thin. And I think at the parks, it lasted probably about 2 to 3 months, but different times, different circumstances, different vacation, but we'll see how long it lasts.
I will say it's sort of reminiscent of cruise prices back during the recession. Like 2008, 2009, cruise prices went way down for their market. And I was actually listening to at the beginning of the pandemic, so, 10 years ago, to Doug Parker on Cruise Radio talking to some guest, being like, there's no way that this is going to cause the cruise lines to discount their sailings. This is not going to be another situation like 2008. Although I think if any of us could look back at the things we said at the beginning of the pandemic,
my God.
Like, oh, I'm working from home for 2 weeks. Then I think we would all be like, no, we didn't know anything. But I do think that we are going to see discounted cruising right now because all of these restrictions are just making the cruise line say, well, if we want to sail at all, we have to really go after a market that can sail, which right now is vaccinated folks who don't have kids in school. So it's just like a really complicated slice of the pie.
Right, because that's the thing. We're in hurricane season still.
There you go.
And school has begun for everybody. Mm-hmm. So we have to worry about, so anybody with school-age kids is like, do you take your kid out of school? Do you not? There's a lot to be considered there.
Yeah.
So speaking of restrictions, Steve, you story number 3?
Yes, good segue. I'm actually just finding out about this today as well. On Friday, the CDC updated their conditional sail order. All passengers should be tested before sailing, even if you're vaccinated now, which we'll talk about that in a sec. Currently, that's everybody under the age of 12 has to produce a negative PCR test between 24 hours and 5 days prior to sailing, and then they also have to get a PCR test when arriving at the port. There has been no further information from Disney Cruise Line at this time when they will begin testing all guests. That logistically seems like a nightmare.
But every other line is doing it already. They don't.
they're at the port. They're already testing
Yes.
everybody.
And Disney has experience doing it in on the Magic. So I think what it does mean is that they're going to have to artificially keep their numbers low. Just from a logistics standpoint, they can't sail with 2,000 people, even if that is 50% of a ship's capacity, because you have to get so many people through so quickly.
But Carnival's doing it with the Mardi Gras, and they are sailing at what, like 80 or 90% capacity or something, I think Doug Parker said. You can't do, Carnival's got some.
Stress.
You can't do full PCR testing, though. I think it's typically rapid.
Right. And the CDC is requiring PCR testing?
Well,
yeah,
so here's
PCR
the
test
thing.
within 24 hours.
So the PCR test is before the cruise, the week before. The kids on Disney Cruise Line, for example, are receiving a rapid PCR test. The other cruise lines I believe, are just doing a rapid test the day of the cruise. And that is working, and it's rapid. It's like 15 minutes. People are getting on board.
How long are people reporting that it takes to get through from the time you arrive at the port with your car, your transportation? How long before you get on?
So the getting on or moving to the next stage, like once you get through security and stuff, because that's its own little process, which didn't take long. And then they're still doing boarding groups, and the boarding groups are slow because they're literally only doing 10 at a time. The first couple of weeks of the cruise, it was taking up to 2 hours to do the testing for the kids. And one of our questions, and I can't quite see who from YouTube, actually, I can't quite see who posted it, but said, what are the ages of the kids that get tested at the port? For Disney Cruise Line, it's 0. Well, 6 months. You have to be 6 months old to cruise. From 6 months until age vaccinated. It's you have to be tested. So if going forward this next week, it'll be age 11. But then it's every age, even the infants. On other cruise lines, some of that testing is only for people over age of 2.
So just to be clear, go ahead, Christy.
Yeah, I'm just going to say you have to read. Every cruise line is going to have a know before you go section, terms and conditions. You really are going to just have to read that before your cruise if you are cruising in the fall right now, because it's fluid. These unprecedented times, things, they're just changing. They're changing by the week. But I will say Blake's test last week took a half an hour, 40 minutes.
And you're sailing later, right? You don't leave till
like 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they don't make any sort of announcement that, hey, we're sailing, because they don't want to encourage gathering. So it's literally like the ship just starts going and people realize, oh, we're moving.
Right.
All right. Just to clarify, so this is just an update of the CDC's conditional sail order. It's not a requirement.
Right.
But as the lawyer in this group could attest, by following CDC guidelines, which Disney has done consistently up until this point, they are covering themselves from any sort of legal action that can come against them.
Yeah,
I know they're telling people you cannot sue us, you're taking on your own risk. But realistically, if somebody does decide to sue them for negligence, they would have a really hard case to fight if Disney could say, we did everything the CDC told us to. So that's what my hunch is, that Disney probably would follow this, because at this point, the restrictions are ever changing.
It's also costly.
Mm-hmm.
It can be very costly to test every guest, because right now, if you're not vaccinated, you have to pay something like $93, right, to get a test.
If you're an adult.
If you're an adult, yeah. Kids that are not, anybody that's not eligible to be vaccinated does not have to pay anything. Disney eats that cost. They pay that cost. But it's going to be a lot more costly if you have to test everyone.
I'm pretty sure on Royal Caribbean, I have to pay myself when we cruise coming up going forward as an adult. I I can't recall if we have to pay. Honestly, it's just so different. Every cruise line is so different. Even Celebrity is different than Royal Caribbean because Celebrity has less kids overall, less unvaccinated individuals. So it's very different. But yeah, so we just have to say, you just have to look and go from there. We don't know another comment when it's becoming effective because it just was announced. I couldn't even find it myself on the CDC website. I don't know if you looked today, Steve, but we originally got the information too from Doug Parker from Cruise Radio.
Exactly. So we'll just leave it at that, not to get too deep in the weeds. If you're going to go on a cruise anytime soon, if you're thinking about it, make sure you have either talk to your travel agent if you're working with one, but also make sure you're monitoring the web page. It seems like that's where most of the information is from the different cruise lines to get the latest as far as what's required prior to arriving at the port and then going through the port to get on board. So let's move on with news story number.
Yes, before we do that, really quick, because this comment, Nez, is that the name? I only see that part of the name in this chat, but said that yes, even the vaccinated, and the reason is because right now with the Delta variant strand, apparently it is affecting the vaccinated so much more than the previous strand of the COVID-19, blah, 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 blah. So because of that, people have no symptoms and they're showing up on the cruise ship, but they can still spread it to somebody. And so a lot of these other cruise lines had already started doing testing so that there wasn't as much of a spread on board, especially when there was unvaccinated people present.
All right. News story number 4. Chris, we haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah, so Disney Cruise Line has updated where they're going to stop in the Bahamas. Basically, they're stopping at Castaway Cay a bunch. So Disney Dream has made additional modifications to its sailing. Through the end of October now, 4-night cruises on the Disney Dream are going to do 2 stops, and then 3-night sailings will do 1 or 2 stops. So if you're lucky, you might get a double dip through the end of October. The Fantasy is supposed to start sailing on September 11th out of Port Canaveral. Her initial sailings are going to feature 2 stops at Castaway Cay consistently because she sails longer itineraries. But DCL is hoping to get her up to full 7-night sailings in October. So that would be the longest sailings that DCL has done since they started resailing if they get to that 7-night sailing status. But all of its pending conditions right now, it is much easier for them to get people on these shorter cruises than longer cruises. And so stay tuned to see if Disney is able to send out some 7-night sailings and resume some normal itineraries by the end of October.
Any thoughts, anybody? No. Okay, well, I will say for those of you listening, if you are scheduled to be on a fantasy cruise, we've got a lot of people that have been on the Dream who've contacted us as far as coming on and sharing their experiences. If you're going to be sailing on one of the fantasy sailings coming up and you'd like to come on and share your experiences, reach out to me, Steve at DCLpodcast.com, and we'll just set up, because I'd love to see the difference, or if there's a differences between the 2 ships as far as how they may be handling things. I think it's going to be pretty similar, but it would be interesting to know.
Yeah, and the good news is from almost everyone that we've talked to, or everyone that we've talked to with like small issues here and there, have said that they really enjoyed going back to sailing, and that the things that happened to them on the ship were things that, you know, like mask wearing indoors and things like that, were things that were okay for them. And they still found a really good value and really good enjoyment in their cruise. So just throwing it out there, it's not all negative. The cruises that have gone, people love and have really enjoyed. Christy booked another.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I went over the weekend and I'm booking again for 5 weeks from now. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and we will be recording with Christy on Friday to hear all about her cruise. So look for that to come out next week. So if anybody has any questions too, because, you know, we try and come up with the best questions to ask, but if there's something out there that you want to hear Christy answer, definitely send us a note tonight, or send us an email, or comment on, I'll put a post up on our Facebook page, comment on there for questions for Christy before we record on Friday. Christy, on to news story number 5.
Yes. And to the question point really quick, if you've already sent me your question, I have put that aside. So I have that and you can send it again, but I do have it if you sent it through Instagram already. Disney Cruise Line has announced additional sailing dates for 2022 aboard the Disney Magic and the Fantasy. We all may have remembered that there was a gap essentially in the itineraries when the 2022 was released, and now those have been filled in. The Disney Magic added 4, 5, and 6-night sailings to the Western Caribbean from Galveston, Texas. All sailings will be very maritime sailings. And my comments for those that live in Texas, if you want to gamble, often there will be resident rates just before that cruise. I mean, you can't pick your cabin, you can't pick anything, you have no say, and there may or may not be resident rates. But historically, the cruises leaving out of Galveston have been discounted at the end. And then the Disney Fantasy added 7-night cruises to the Eastern and Western Caribbean out of Port Canaveral. These cruises will feature very maritime sailings. They all will. And then the dates for the Fantasy are December 17th and the 24th.
Do you remember the absurdity back in the day when Disney would not announce that your cruise was a maritime cruise or a Halloween cruise until like before? And it's like, why are you doing that? Like, I'm booking a cruise in December. It's obviously going to be this way. But from a marketing standpoint, they could do a push and be like, guess what? We've added these special types of cruises. But really, I'm glad that they've gone with the trend of just saying if it's going to be a special cruise. They still hold out, though, on Star Wars and Marvel, right? Like, they don't announce.
And you just don't really know when it starts or stops. So,
yeah.
I mean, maybe. I bet somebody out there has figured out that it's always the third fantasy cruise in 2021 or the new year in January. I bet somebody has done that. I have not. But I bet somebody else has.
All right, before we go into our next news story, we got a couple comments here. Inez, you will be sailing on the Dream. If you want to come on and talk about that, we sure would appreciate you coming on and talking again. It would be good to talk to you again. And hello, Kim. I know that you're on the Fantasy as well in November, so definitely come on and we'll have your perspective from that. Kim says she has a Thanksgiving cruise with the Royal Caribbean she's excited about, and we've got our Thanksgiving cruise on the Dream now, so why don't we go head to head, Kim? We'll figure out who had the better turkey. So how about that one? And then Elizabeth says, fingers crossed for some discounted cruises out of San Diego. You may see that as well. To be determined on that one. Steve, on to news story number 6. We got a lot tonight.
Yeah, so this is just very brief, just like what the parks did. You can now take your mask off when you're taking a photo, when you're on Disney Cruise Line, and you could safely social distance. So I guess, that was a very quick change from the initial policy. So I think between the number of people on the board, it's probably on board, or it's probably not hard to find social distance in a lot of places and take a photo. So I don't know. Chrissy, you see, was that happening when you were on or no? Were people taking photos without a mask?
Yeah. What's funny, though, is with a lot of the characters, so people would go to, it wasn't really offered up with the characters. So I don't really know if it was always an option or maybe it was only in particular areas, because during the photo time, what would we call it? Where they have like the real photographers sitting around the ship with their like backdrops and cameras and all that situation. They had like a whole situation. They had a table that you walk up and you put your mask on the table. Then when the people leave, the photographer goes up to the table, wipes it with a fresh, remember those hand wipes that we don't get to have when we enter restaurants anymore? They give you a fresh one of those, or they wipe the table down with a fresh one of those. And then the next person puts their mask there. So during the character, like a lot of times they were calling it, one of the other listeners told us something in wave, appear in wave, I believe. I think it was Lake and Katie that told us that, appear in wave. There wasn't a table to put your mask down. And there was definitely a little girl talking to a princess during one of the Pier and Wave, and there was like a bar and you were still social distanced, things like that. But in that scenario, the little tiny girl, she was young, was told to put her mask back on. So I don't know, but it was a little bit more of, I'm not explaining this well, but a little bit more of a crowded scenario. So for sure, when you're getting your picture taken by the photographers, you can take your mask off because they have a whole situation set up to do that. But just for the regular character spots, I don't know what they were really doing about that, because for a lot of them, there wasn't a character, or there wasn't a Disney photographer, and there wasn't a table to put your mask down. Obviously you can hold it. We've all been doing that for a long time, right? But everybody was still wearing them. So I don't know, which is not very helpful.
It's a little bit of both, but it seems like where it's planned, like in the atrium per se, they've got it, the situation, the guy from the Jersey Shore there, he's helping you kind of figure out what you're going to do with, sorry. That popped in my mind when you were talking about that, Christy. Yeah. All right. So anyways, but they've got it planned out so that people get social distance. You can get in there, get your picture taken without your mask on, but maybe something up on the deck where the characters are appearing, where people are kind of crowded together. They're having you wear your mask. So I guess to be determined, huh?
Yeah. It depends on the situation.
Depends on the situation.
These policies are going to crumble and fall apart in about a week.
Well, all I think
it's like
about
it's some of it. Wipe the table after you go to the table. 18 months into this is not a touch virus. Anyway, I don't know.
Well, but they you put your mask. That's the only thing on that table where everybody else is putting their mask.
Yeah, I
don't need that. I don't need that germ situation. I would have just put the mask back in my purse. However,
just power wash me with hand sanitizer.
To me, the funny thing is that all these rules exist, right? But if you take the Disney bus to the port, you're sitting in every seat on the bus. And if you're taking it either from the hotel or from the airport, every seat's filled. But once you get there, you have to be 6 feet apart from anybody not in your family, whether you're inside or outside.
Kristen, and then, you're probably coming from Main Street the night before where you were packed watching fireworks. Can we stop the theatrics?
And at the fireworks, I have a client / girlfriend that was there last week. She was standing in the hub, and a cast member came in their section, and they told them to stand up and fill the available space for the fireworks that were already kind of crowded.
Yeah, that is back, by the way. That line of cast members being instructed to do that. This is a side piece kind of news. Our friends are there now. They've been there for like a week, 10 days, and they're being instructed to do those things in ride lines.
Yeah, there's no way. I'm not filling, and that's my girlfriend said too. I'm not filling any space. I'm going to fill space to have 6 feet in front of me and 6 feet behind me. They can just take their space.
Yeah, that seems to be an operational change, not just like a random cast member doing that. So yeah. Anyway, this is a whole different story. But
the irony, right, of filling all available space and then going to the cruise ship where we're all having all the space in the world is also the reason that I think they need to test everybody before they get on that Disney ship.
Sure.
Which, okay, I have to stop talking, but to me, the reason that the Fantasy switched to a 4-night cruise instead of the 7-night cruise is because how long does COVID take to catch up with people? For the most part, someone can go to Disney World, they're going to catch COVID, they catch COVID, they go on their cruise, they leave, they figure out they've got COVID when they get home. And logistically, they don't have to deal with as many positive cases on a short cruise because people aren't going to figure out that they had it until they're done with the short cruise. That is my unasked for commentary.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, I'd be curious how these policies evolve. I'll be curious how these policies evolve.
Because
they crumbled
to
so
all
quickly.
Available space.
Yeah. So we'll see how the huge difference is the cruise lines are on a completely different microscope.
They are
and the people that work aboard those cruise lines rarely ever leave. And without the crew, nothing happens.
Right.
So that's the biggest difference. It's not like when you're on land and you're sick and someone could substitute in and they can cover your shift. If there's an outbreak with crew, it's a whole different story. So we'll see. Maybe they'll be more strict on the cruise lines just because of the microscope that they're under. And we'll see. I just, hearing about the logistics and the policies and stuff, and then you're all eating together in a restaurant. And I'm going, none of this makes sense. But anyway.
That's been the frustration the whole time, right? The consistency across the board, whether you're flying in an airline or getting on a cruise ship or visiting a Disney park. So
yeah, sorry for the commentary.
All right, on to news story number 7. We've got 2 fun ones, I think, to finish up with. Chris, why don't you start with the first one, because this was your dream, although it's a wish too, I suppose, because it's on the wish.
I mean, a dream is a wish your heart makes, Steve.
It is. So why don't you run with news story number 7?
Okay, so I said a long time ago, what do I want for the new class of ships? I want a black box style ride. Like a black box style ride is essentially Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. So they are not going to change what Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway looks like right now because it's still super, super popular. But when they want to make additions to that ride, it's as easy as updating the projections. So that ride is something that Imagineers built because it can be infinitely changeable. And that is why they are building it at Disneyland, because they can make whatever changes they want to it throughout the experience. And here we have an example of Disney Cruise Line beating them to the punch, because they have taken the Aqua Duck ride system. They have enclosed it in a black tube with essentially projections and TV screens all around you. And they have officially announced, when they first announced it, they announced something called Scuba Scramble. And it was going to be like Mickey and Minnie's Excursion Company, which is called Port Misadventures, is going to take you on an excursion to Mermaid Lagoon. And of course, along the way, there's going to be all these misadventures and chaos happens. And then the guests get really wet. And then they finish and it's amazing. But Disney just announced this month a second storyline that they are calling Swiss Meltdown. And it's as simple as pushing a button on their computer and the entire ride will turn into Swiss Meltdown instead of what's the first one? Scuba Scramble. So that's really cool because now you have a reason to ride the Aqueduct multiple days of your multiple days of your experience, because you're going to get to have a different ride and a different story. So the second story that they've announced, Swiss Meltdown, is inspired by a yodeling Mickey Mouse short, which I'm not seeing this short, but cool. Yeah, that's fun. And Mickey and Minnie's Excursion Company is going to want to take you where? The iconic Matterhorn. And of course, it's snowing at the Matterhorn, but then in Florida, the sun comes out, it's super hot. So the Matterhorn starts melting. And now you have to race the top of the ski adventure before the snow melts. And there's going to be all types of fun Easter eggs and different references to Disney characters, the cruise line, Disney parks. I'm sure there will be Matterhorn references for Disneyland fans. And it's also going to have the same music from Christopher Willis, who did the music for the yodeling short that all of us watch every day because we love it so much. And
you don't have a 6 and a 4-year-old, so I actually kind of know about this, but go ahead.
You've seen it? Oh my gosh. I've literally never heard of this. But
my kids have Mickey shorts on all the time. I think they're really cool, but go ahead.
I like it. I know that some people don't love the new animation style of the like really stark black and white Mickey and Minnie, but I think it's kind of cool. And I'm excited. Maybe I'll go online and watch this yodeling short and see what I can see, at least hear the music ahead of time.
You should.
And for those of you wondering, well, how will I know which one is which on which day? It looks like Disney's probably going to just do every other day or something like that. So as long as you like go on a Tuesday and a Wednesday or a Tuesday and a Friday, you would experience a different short or a different ride experience than before. So Steve, I will throw it to you for number 8, the final story of today.
Well, before we jump into that one, I'm just kind of curious. You know, Blake's been on Mickey and Minnie's, Christy, and then your kids have been on Mickey and Minnie, Steve. Do they like that ride? Do they like the cartoon style and everything like that? Obviously, Steve, you said they watch it all the time. I love the cartoon style, and I think they're really creative shorts. So what do you guys think?
Steve?
No, they love it. They love it. I think it's great. And I also think that logistically, it's good for the cruise line to have people not just all sitting on the pool deck and getting in lines and trying to get on the ride. and having it evolve and change gives people a reason to continue to go back several times. So it's really good I think it's actually good for crowd control too, up on that top deck. Just as a weird sort of aside that I was thinking. So, but yeah, my kids love Mickey Minnie's Railway. And then by the time the Wish is built, they'll both be, they've never, neither of them have been on the Aqueduct. They weren't tall enough the last time we were on.
Blake just rode it for the first time.
Did he love it?
Because he loved it. He actually wanted to go again. They had to wait 45 minutes on a half empty ship to ride.
Really?
So, I mean, they rode it right when it opened. And so it's possible. It was a short cruise. That was part of it. We also had a lot of lightning both afternoons of the cruise. And so that would have shortened, people's opportunity to do things like that. But he loved it and cannot wait to go back.
That's great.
He also watched that short like almost every time he got to watch TV in our cabin on the cruise, because there was one channel that just repeats those shorts the whole time. And the on-demand cartoons and stuff there weren't any cartoons on there. So he wanted to watch some. So it was that all the time.
That's great. Yeah, my kids love them.
I think they're cute. My husband loves them. Blake loves them. They annoy me a little after a while, like the little noises and the crazy sounds all the time.
They need to. It's a smart iteration of the animation because they just need to compete with the level of stimulation and stuff that's out there, and they love the saturated colors and the style of animation. So I think this ride will be a huge hit, and certainly a huge hit in this house. My kids are pretty adventurous with the rides. They don't give us a lot of issues when it comes to rides. So, and then this Saturday we're going to go get them on Ratatouille. So we'll get to do that.
Do I go on Saturday too? I think we go on Saturday as well.
Oh, yeah, maybe you'll be next to each other, right, in the line of a new ride.
I think we have a very similar time in which we arrive. I'm in the evening.
Well, let's. Yes, I'm dinner time. Let's text about that.
Yeah. Sorry. News item 8.
Also, Steve, just to your point about this getting more people riding the thing again and that helping with just people sitting around on the pool deck, the ride system that they're using is a conveyor belt lift hill that allows them to load a lot more people onto the Aqua Mouse than they can on the Aqua Duck. I want to say the Aqua Duck requires you to wait like 30 seconds, 40 seconds between each launch. Maybe even a minute.
Ride. I think it was a minute because I was timing it because I could not find them. And I was like, clearly they've ridden this ride. And finally I found their shoes in the cubby and I was like, okay. So I had to ask some random stranger, hey, is there more of that line in there which I can't see? And they said, yes. So, and then I asked somebody else, 20 people or so are in that building that I can't see. And the entire ride has to go through, at least currently, before they load the next one. Takes forever.
Right. And that might be how it's always been. If you go to the slides at Alani, it's one person from start to finish. You can't ever have more than one person, but those are short slides. This is a long thing. It's like a minute and a half.
Yeah. So what are they afraid of? And Dave said that the ending, you very clearly could have two people in that ending. There's never going to be a concern about somebody crashing into the end of that, into each other at the end of that ride. That the spot for the rafts, whatever they're called, there's plenty of space for it. There's literally nothing, unless they're worried about them getting stuck in the middle somewhere, nothing to be concerned about to not have people starting when the ride is ending.
Right.
Oh. But a conveyor belt loading system, the evac sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
We'll get an evac.
If you have to go down,
hanging over the side of the ship, that won't cause any terror. No.
Escape. But it also allows you to not have to go upstairs to load into the ride because you have a lift hill. So you're actually starting at the deck level. Anyway, all that to say, it's going to help with capacity. This is going to be a higher capacity experience than the Aqueduct. Which means more people get to ride it more times on their experience.
They have 22 years of data now for their customers, and they're building ships almost a decade apart. I think the huge difference between the parks and the cruise line is they're able to plan it completely differently, and they're doing what seems like some very smart iterations for people's experience. And they're actually, to me, I know it'll cost more and there's add-ons and so on, but it seems like they're trying to actually improve the guest experience.
They are.
But the parks may be going a little bit backwards on, on that one. But.
Notwithstanding the current CEO, I think that there are plenty of people all throughout the Walt Disney or the Disney company that are trying to improve and keep the guest experience at that upper level. And there are.
It's the one place of the company for sure where probably Disneyland's a little bit better than Disney World as far as the guest experience from all the feedback that I've heard on parks for sure. I mean, I don't really think in Disney World we're cared about that much whatsoever. I mean,
there's just so many people, right? And they know that people just keep coming back because Mary Sue needs to take her kids to do bibbity bobbity and go walk around Main Street with her princess outfit. So,
but I think they still do cruise line right. I still think it's there. So I'm holding the hope for as cynical as I can be and jaded as I can be. I still think that whoever's working for that division of the company, bravo. If you're watching, listening, probably not.
I love your guys' honesty and passion. So I love it. I love that it's coming out. So a couple things, Chris.
You're sitting back there like a proud dad, just being like,
Or how do I get them to stop? But we're live, so I have to look nice.
Yeah.
Right.
No. What I
Christy was very tired before this. Now she's ready to go.
Got me fired up.
What I hear you saying, Christy, is that's your perfect time when you see Blake take off to go get in line for the Aqua Duck. That's the time for you to order that drink and enjoy the 20 minutes or the hour that you've got on board on the deck with Dave and just have that good conversation and that nice drink and watch the Caribbean water sail.
Are you kidding? It was even better than that. And hi, boys, I think you guys are watching. But Dave went with Blake. So I got that 45 minutes to myself.
They have to, right? Wait, do they have to be accompanied by adult under a certain age? I think so, right?
Dave, if you are listening to this, text me the answer.
I think
does Blake need a parent?
Age. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think you might be right, but I'm surprised, Chrissy. I'm surprised you weren't up there going. You should clean that in between each one of the riders. We need more time. I need more time.
We wanted to get to the beach. We were like already delayed. I thought it would take 20 minutes. All I had to do was pack up our stuff, and yet took forever.
All right, we've got one comment before we go to our final news story from Kim, I believe. She says, ooh, for the water ride, holiday theme for Christmas cruises, Halloween, Star Wars theme for Star Wars Day at Sea.
That was Liz.
A lot of fun with that. Was it Liz?
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize.
That's okay.
Sorry, Liz.
This is the point of these types of rides. For those, I love DCL so much so that I co-host a podcast about it. But my original love was Disneyland and the theme parks. And I can tell you that the geeky theme park rider in me thinks that this is like next level and so much better than any other cruise line is offering. Like go and look at Carnival's roller coaster at sea
that they charge $20 for.
I can't. It is.
What?
It literally
Carnival
makes,
that never charges for anything extra. Like I used to
because
praise
it's so
them.
Limited capacity. That's the problem. It's so limited capacity.
Please don't give Disney ideas, Carnival.
No, Disney won't do this. Disney won't charge for this. Knock on all the Disney would. But the point is, I think that this is the right direction to go. Now we just need to figure out if they can take all the staterooms off of Deck 8 and install the Haunted Mansion.
No, come up with something different. No.
Think about you've got two themings. You've got Halloween on the High Seas and Very Merry Time with Jack there. So, I mean, it's like a perfect ride.
You're right, Christy, that I do not think... Oh, wait. I have to say this, Steve. Sorry. I found out that they're not doing pirate fireworks, and my heart sang. They're doing like classic Disney music fireworks, and I love that. I love that more than I've loved anything, because Pirates of the Caribbean is a dead franchise. They are not making those movies. We do not need Pirate of the Caribbean music with fireworks going off. What we need is A Dream Is Your Wish Your Heart Makes. We need some Coco and some Up music. We need new Disney themes, that type of fireworks show.
And we have somebody that could review it on Friday.
It's socially distanced. Hear more about it next week.
Hear more about it on Christie's episode.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, Steve. Sorry, we're off track. I would like to hear from you.
Okay.
Really?
What is
No,
Disney Wish doing?
Go ahead, Christy. Read
before there's actually a couple of really good comments I want to read.
Okay.
One, because it's my husband. I'm kidding. It's fine. But before Steve moves on, we have to get to these. Yes, Blake had to be accompanied by an adult, and then he was given a color-coded band that indicated he was big enough to ride the ride, but had to be accompanied by an adult. So
Thank you,
we
Dave.
have some information. Yeah. Say hi. Hi, family. And then Seth, Chris's fabulous husband, said that Walt Disney World, and this is for you, Stevie, that Walt Disney World will be the focus soon enough. This was back to Disney World is getting no love, because the Disney park staff and most of the Imagineers are going to be in Lake Nona, which is exciting.
Now I know why Chris really loves Seth, because he's holding the hope. It's a positive person. I cannot hold that same hope, but I hope you're right.
Also, Seth knows that I have bit my tongue when talking about them moving the Imagineers and Parks and Resorts team to Florida, because I think it is a terrible idea.
I mean, it couldn't be more clear, right? That it's because of
it's financially motivated.
And
it is.
That's what's a little gross.
There are so many people who are losing their jobs because they're not willing to move to the armpit of America. Just kidding. Florida's great. I'm kidding. But they're not willing to move to Florida and pick up their whole life and move there. And also, let's be honest, there is a lot of reasons why your spouse might not be able to move because they have a job that's located here, or your child might be in a specific
company. That happens. We can only corporations move, but
they do.
The part that's gross is so clearly financially motivated, and that is a little icky.
It's a layoff.
A lot of icky.
It's a layoff.
It's
not a relocation.
It's laying off so many folks, and then the new team they bring on is going to be hired in at a lower rate because they're going to have less experience.
You're having a massive brain drain of older executives that are not going to leave, that have been with the company for a very long time, that have lived in California for a very long time. They're not going to Lake Nona to ride out the rest of their.
That's accurate too. But I've bit my tongue on this for so long because I'm passionate, and then Seth decided to post it.
Who went to?
Yeah, he left, but he left ahead of the time. Also, he's in a lot of episodes of Behind the Attraction. I recommend you watch it on Disney Plus. Steve, Disney Wish will feature what?
All right, we got a couple minutes left before we get out of here. But did you cover this at what Dave said? Also, Christy, he was given a color coded band.
Yeah, we did. We said that.
Yeah, we covered it.
Okay. All right. Also, I'm here for the changing themes on the Aquamouse. I love that. I love the idea of Disney music with fireworks as well from Liz. Okay.
Liz and I are kindred. Liz and I need to be besties because we live in each other's backyards and we have the same opinions.
You guys need to go to Disneyland together. So
yeah,
make that happen. Vlog.
Right.
I want to see a vlog. All right, so our final news story tonight, this could be an episode in and of itself. If you want to go over to allears.net, they've got a great breakdown. They were able to see some of the concepts of what's behind the new interactive game, which was announced is going to be on the Disney Wish. Think of it similar to the Midship Detective Agency, which is on the Dream and the Fantasy.
Or the Minahune Trail at Aulani.
The Minahune, which wait for Chris's episode coming up here soon, where we'll be talking about him and Seth trying to figure out where all those Minahune are and what was going on with the turtles and the drain. Was it the turtles in the drain? I think it's turtles in the drain. Did you get to that part? I don't even know.
Oh, we did. Spoiler, we did not finish that trail because Auntie was just really, really trying at some points.
All right, Chad. Yeah. Hello, Chad. I forgot to give you a shout out to you. Pokemon Go at Sea. Yes, I think so in some ways. All right. This is going to be an interactive game. It's featured as an interactive game that's going to be played throughout the cruise by an individual, family, or group, featuring a climactic ending near the end of the cruise, and they are speculating most likely it's going to take place in Luna, which is that what is replacing the D Lounge? I think.
Yes,
guys.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
The premise of the story is,
but that Luna is on a whole other deck, isn't it?
It's a multi-floor like D Lounge style,
but like up by the pool deck.
But it's like multi-use. So I think in the way that they put a bunch of stuff in the D Lounge, they'll use Luna for that.
So the premise, guys, the premise of the story is not to just ride around and get wet on the Aquamouse. It is, if wishing upon a star makes your dreams come true, what happens when the star goes missing? So the game's going to be played on the Disney Parks app, which you're going to have to download beforehand. While you're on board, you'll hook up to the ship's Wi-Fi, which we know is all spot on throughout the ship, which I think is going to be good on the Wish. There will be several adventures and quests you can complete at your own time and at your own pace during the cruise. The adventures will take you around the ship, where you will interact with many parts of the ship, which you may not realize had a special part in the game, which I think is pretty cool. I think the Midship Detective Agency is a lot of fun, but I hope that they really go over the top with some of the interactions that you can have with some of the structures
things on the ship, which would be a lot more like the Minahune.
Right. Okay, and so the more you play, so if you can play it more than once or go to the levels more than once, but the more you play, you'll have the ability to unlock new experiences or levels which you previously may not have reached. And the game can also be updated for new storylines and experiences. One of the things that they saw was so you're using your phone to look through constellations, and from there you're going to go on your quest. And one of the constellations that they did see, Chris, was Spider-Man.
Oh, I didn't know what you were about to say.
So there is, and Chris, you'll be excited about this, a possibility of them, changing it into maybe a Marvel game at some point as well, and having kind of that Marvel theming. So maybe during a Marvel Day at Sea cruise, or who knows, maybe they'll just mix it up by day 5 or 6 or something like that. On the cruise.
Well, and don't forget that they have a wishing star as the focal point of the chandelier in the it's not the atrium anymore, whatever they're calling it, the royal space in the middle of the ship has a crystal looking star thing.
The Grand Hall?
Is like the Grand Hall. There we go. That's the focal point of the chandelier. So maybe that'll play into it somehow. I don't know how, but maybe.
Well, that's it for the news tonight. Christy, go ahead.
How that story put me right to sleep. It was perfect for the end of the night.
Oh my goodness. Salty, you pirate.
Oh my God.
Listen, I'm super excited about this thing.
I am so glad there is something for everybody.
Hyperspace Lounge.
Yeah, there's a lot of updates on that too, as well as the Hyperspace Lounge and some of the experiences that you're gonna have at the Marvel restaurant, and also on an Elsa's Adventurous Eatery, or I can't remember what they're calling it, but alleears.net's got some great information on all 3 of those restaurants and the Hyperspace, or the 2 restaurants in the Hyperspace Lounge as well. So
they also just announced that anyone who listens to this podcast on their first day of their cruise will get a tour of the Moana funnel suite. So that is a really exciting thing that we weren't sure they were going to offer our listeners, but they decided to. So
where's
listening.
Is Chris in the concierge with us? Is he here? Befriend him. He'll take you around.
All right, guys. Anything else that I missed or we missed talking about Disney Cruise Line news? Thanks for all the I like all your comments.
Are we ready? We're not ready to talk about the Incredipass?
The Incredipass.
Oh God.
I think there was, Steve, what was that you texted me, kind of a breakdown of the price differences from Walt Disney World. I think they did a really good job on that, and we should put it up on Facebook too to kind of pass that out, because I thought they did a good job on the differences between the Walt Disney World annual pass holder from previous and now. Yeah,
I think it was Blog Mickey, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm, yep.
Said that like if you were to, we're not going to get into this obviously, but if you were to take the Platinum pass and then buy like the Incredipass now or whatever it is, and add in the additions that have been taken away, the $99 photo pass, the water parks, whatever else, it's like it becomes like a 55% increase on your annual pass. So on the surface, if you look at the comparable passes, it looks like it's not a modest increase by any means, but it's an increase with benefits taken away, and then you have to add in the photo pass. So the actual, if you were to make them comparable with benefits, the actual prices you're paying are going to be a lot more. And then you have to add in, Genie Plus, and I guess I don't know if you have to get on a ride, you got to give a kidney. I don't even know what the system is at this point. Maybe some other organ that you don't really need.
But what else they did is they permanently made every ticket type at Disney World a reservation only ticket, which is what they've done at Disneyland. It feels a little weird that they took away the annual pass program in Anaheim, replaced it with basically an annual pass program that requires reservations, but they kept the annual pass program in Disney World, except they replaced it with an annual pass program that requires reservations. So they literally could have continuity across the entire brand, name them the exact same thing, make them work in the exact same way across both parks.
They can't do that. They can't charge the same.
But I mean, isn't the highest level pass $1,400?
Not without. I don't. Wait.
It was 12. It was 12 something at Disney World.
That's what I thought. Once you add
so
the
it's
two
like
things,
$100 or $200 cheaper, but
once you add the two things,
name it the same thing, I guess.
No, they can't because of that.
But there used to be a Premier Pass, right? Where you go to Disneyland.
Where you go to both.
That's gone, right?
Yeah, they're making big operational changes that they've wanted to make for a long time under the guise of the pandemic. So this is something they've been wanting to do. They just now have a reason to do it. I think people are getting frustrated because it feels like money grabs, but you also have a company that has been hemorrhaging money from their theme park division for 12 months. So,
well, as every
I gotta go on mute here.
Yeah, he's not allowed to say the words. As has every single travel and tourism company.
Agreed.
So
it's
an entertainment company.
It's not my favorite. Steve,
except for Netflix.
Take us home. Do you want me to bring my pretty balloon that I got at Disneyland?
Yeah, we need to have a little bit of a cheerier end. How are we going to have cheer in our end of this?
I think this has been a cheery episode. There has
been a lot of cheery episode of this.
There's a lot of good things coming.
Yes.
And look at that balloon.
Look at that balloon.
That's a cool balloon.
Yeah.
It's got like emoji faces.
I'm a sucker for the balloons, man. I like the balloons.
Yeah.
Every time my kids ask for a balloon, I'm generally like,
Steve, you know you can bring it back, right?
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
But you can bring it back and they'll replace it with a new one.
I know. It's just something about, putting that balloon on the stroller when they were a kid and taking pictures with it.
But you can do that with the balloon you bring home. That's what I'm saying. Get that new balloon.
Right.
For any listener out there,
I will take
you can actually pop your balloon before you fly home. I don't know. And a Disney cast member balloon salesperson told me this. When I bought Blake his balloon, you can bring it back at any time and they will replace it with another balloon.
I mean, you paid $15 for it or whatever it is. So might as well get two out of the deal.
Yeah.
Also, PhotoPass hack. I guess now you don't need them to actually take a PhotoPass. Just give the PhotoPass cast member your phone in the same location that they're doing.
They will. Oh, will they touch phones again?
They will touch phones again. It's back. Touch your phone.
All right.
With all your germs on it. Ugh.
All right. We could go on and on and on. Well, Chris, thanks for the uplifting picture.
Oh, no. That's Ed Asner died. That's up the balloon. Now yes. I'm depressed again, spiraling.
Oh my goodness! It's like the Aquamouse. It's up and down and up and down. It's a roller coaster ride today. Well, thanks everybody for coming and listening. Any final thoughts? We'll just go around the room. Chris, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I have an annual pass again.
Congratulations,
Steve. What are your final thoughts? Anything?
No, it was good. You know what? I really haven't thought much about the wishing a little bit. It was good to, go over the news, and I like that they're trickling out some stuff and providing some videos and more overview of some of the nuances and details on the ship. So that's really cool.
And Christy, excited to talk to you Friday about your cruise. Any final thoughts before we get out of here tonight?
No, I'm excited to talk about it. I'm booked again. I mean, that's how great it was. So I'm giving you guys a little bit of a sneak peek.
Well, there we go. Well, thank you guys for wrapping up August and all the Disney Cruise Line news, at least what we've come up with tonight. Thanks for everybody who listen to our podcast. Thanks for everybody who interacted with us tonight. We always have a fun time doing that with you guys. And we look forward to all our episodes coming out in September. As we move into the fall, Halloween is already begun at Walt Disney World. Halloween on the High Seas is going to be setting sail with Disney Cruise Line. And Christy will have pictures of her pumpkins up on her walkway for us before Halloween.
It's like you work on those.
I try.
He does.
All right, everybody. As we get out of here tonight, once again, thanks for coming back and taking a listen. And we'll see you next time on the DCL podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.